Alliance for Social Equity and Public Accountability, ASEPA, has asked government to set a board of trustees to manage funds of ECG until the proper cleanup of the PDS mess. In a statement issued and signed by the Executive Director, Mensa Thompson, ASEPA is calling for an immediate establishment of a trustee with representatives from the various power sector players and also a monitoring and supervision entity like PIAC to ensure transparency and accountability in the collection and distribution of the revenues from ECG to the appropriate.
And so once we know and we've understood that this whole deal is in a mess, then the first thing that government needs to do is to take steps to secure the revenue inflows coming to ECG. It's very important. It's very, very important. And how do we do that? Because they are individual energy sector players who are all contributing in the production and distribution of power, it is important that we set up a trustee with representatives from each of these individual players, so that at the end of the month, when the revenues are collected, these representatives from the board of trustees meet and see that the money is distributed to the appropriate entities, so that there's no debt created in the sector. Since PDS took over, even though PDS is at the bottom of the value chain, if you look at the production of power, the fuel that is being used to run the power plant is taken from GMPC or is supplied by GMPC. Without that fuel, the power plants cannot run and we cannot produce electricity. So in terms of the value chain, GMPC is on top. Then the IPPs will come in, the independent power producers who produce power and feed it into the national grid so that government, or GridCo can give it to ECG for distribution. Also comes next, then GridCo, then PDS is at the bottom. But because PDS was the one collecting the money, and because our tariffs are also not enough, because last year government reduced the tariffs, and that lowered the revenue that was coming in. And so instead of PDS ensuring that everybody on the table get their share, PDS takes the money and pay themselves, and everyone else can go to hell. And PDS, and that has created a lot of debt with the IPPs, with GMPC and the other players. And so to ensure that that does not happen, so that the government do not come back to us again next year asking us for extra revenue through ESLA to pay those debts that have been created in the energy sector, we have to ensure that all the power sector players get their fair share of the revenue that ECG will be collecting. And so you set up a trustee with their various representatives on that trustee. Then you set up an entity like PIAC, like what PIAC is doing in the oil sector, overseeing the revenue, the application of the oil revenue. You set up an entity like that will also ensure transparency and accountability in the distribution of those revenue to the various entities. Then government can have that space to think of alternatives and how to deal with the power sector challenges, how to get a lasting solution to the problems that we are having now. Otherwise, then, before government is able to clean up the mess and terminate this deal and all that, another batch of debt would have been created again, and you and I will have to come back to pay for it.
Mr. Thompson, will you be able to tell us at the moment who has oversight of revenue at this point when there's all this going on with the PDS?
Well, PDS was suspended, and their work, ECG took over, but ECG sublet the works to PDS. But we are told that it is the two entities, ECG and PDS, who are handling the revenue that is coming in.
Okay.
That is what we are being told.
Okay. Okay.
You see, but how are the other players also faring? Because at the end of the day, these two people, PDS and ECG, they are even at the bottom. The key players are there who are waiting for their money. The IPPs are waiting for their monies to be able to produce power. If we don't pay them and they shut their plants down, we are going to be in a total mess again. And so these are some of the things that we should be paying attention to. We should forget about the Americans can deal with their mess. If anybody has taken money from the Americans and they've not put it into proper use, the Americans can ensure that the Americans have the power to be able to do that. They have that expertise. Right now, as Ghanaians, our major concern should be on the revenues, the bills you and I are paying. Who is taking the money? Who is ensuring that this goes to who and this goes where? That is what our attention should be focused on.
Right, Mr. Thompson, and just before you go, have you heard back from any of the government's representatives?
No, not at all, not at all. And we are expecting that at least by noon, the energy minister, who we are putting pressure on to ensure that this is done, would have received and read our communique and would have responded to it appropriately. So we are waiting on the energy minister to respond to this appropriately and tell us the measures that they are putting in place in the interim to ensure that the funds that are coming in to ECG is going to be secured and is going to be safe, and all the power sector players are going to receive their fair share of the money that are coming in.
Okay. Right. Well, thank you very much for joining us, Mr. Thompson, and we'll definitely bring you more updates as when and if the government do respond to this request.